Welcome to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. For the next hour, you'll hear proven methods for how to live the multiple income streams dream. Ryan is passionate about helping others discover their gifts and start their own business. He's published 5 books, and his courses and group coaching programs have changed the lives of thousands of students all over the world. Ryan's books include Private Label, The Easy Way, Finding Your Grace Place, and his latest, Streams of Income. And now, here's your host, Ryan Rieger.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Streams of Income radio show. I'm your host, Ryan Rieger. Today we're chatting with my good friend, Paul LaRue of Cozy. He has a patent on the world's first battery-powered heating blanket, and he's starting to sell those, having awesome success. In this episode, we talk about how he got that idea, how the Lord spoke to him on it, and just his journey of bringing that product to market. It's not been easy, for sure. He's had a bunch of bumps in the road, but the Lord's got him through it. He talks about how his wife was so super helpful. So for all you guys that are married, this episode will be good because you can hear how somebody who's been married for 40 years, how they work together, how even though she's not involved so much in the business, but how he relies on her for advice. Great advice for us as guys. So eager to bring this to you. Here's my interview with Paul. All right, Paul, welcome to Streams of Income Radio. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
You're so welcome. It's an honor to be here, brother.
Yes. So we've known each other for several months now, or a couple years, I guess now.
A couple years, yeah.
Almost. Thanks. So guys, to give you kind of a heads up, Paul is the owner of Cozy, and we'll get into this. Cozy is the world's first battery-powered heating blanket. And you got a patent on that. We'll definitely get into that story. But before we do that, Paul, tell us who you are. And you got a fascinating business history. Some of the things you've done are cool.
Crazy stuff.
And you're in California. You're married to a beautiful wife, Carolyn.
40 years, brother. Just
that's
40
awesome.
Years. Talk about
maybe we ought to talk about that.
Yeah. Well, maybe I should have her talk about that. She'll tell you the truth. But it's been such a fabulous. She is. I call her the gold standard of women. She's just absolutely an amazing. Loves God with all of her heart, and she. It's interesting. Some of the people that might listen or watch this. One of my mentors many years ago asked me. He said, "Paul," he says, "do you know the root meaning of the word helpmate? As it relates to Adam and Eve, and God gave a helper fit for Adam." And I'm like, helper, like a dunce cap, helper. And he goes, "Well, let me show you in Hebrew." So we went into Hebrew, and he kind of unfolded it. And he actually said, the root meaning of the word helpmate is from right to left in Hebrew. It's the revealer of the enemy. And I thought, what? Are you kidding me? So I'm praying about that, right? And I'm just like, Lord, show me how to lead, and I want to learn how to trust you. And, and I just felt this little phrase that came over my heart. It was like this: I've given Carolyn the GPS, and I've called you to lead. And I thought, well, isn't that interesting that I never want to ask for directions? Right. But it's funny, back in the MapQuest days, you'd print it out, and we have a trip, and I'd try to beat it. I'm like, dang it, it was down to the minute. I'm like, son of a gun. Well, similar to GPS, right?
Oh my God.
So it's so funny because she'll say something like, well, I don't know about that. I got a sense about this. I'm like, what? Oh, and and later on, I'm like, golly gosh, Batman, she was completely right.
Yes.
I'm like, to the T, and she had no idea about any of the deal per se. She just sensed it,
Yeah.
That's a segue into the Cozy.
Absolutely. That's awesome.
Because here's what happened, right? Now, I had this idea 10 years ago because we have a special needs daughter, Brianna, who now is 34, and she was born with CP. She's a twin. Her twin is fine, but Boo Boo is actually born dead. You know a bit about this story, but I'll just repeat it.
Go for it.
Listened, or haven't heard it before. And it was we had a almost 5-year-old son and almost 3-year-old daughter, and then here we had the twins. And we went in for natural childbirth. It was like hunky-dory. Everything's fine. We're excited. We have 4 kids in just a minute. And so as we went in there, Brianna, Boo Boo, that's what she calls herself. We agree with her. She's Boo Boo. So her heart rate dropped down to 0, and they rushed us into an emergency C-section. And here we are like, what is happening? It's a whirlwind. rushed us in,
Mm.
and then, opened Carolyn up, and then Rochelle's fine. And Boo Boo, I look down there, I'm standing right there, and she's dead. She's literally a dusky gray color, and they pull her out, and it took just seemingly forever for her to take her first breath. And I'm just
Mm.
crying out, God help, God help. Carolyn's behind the little curtain thing. She goes, what's happening? I'm like, it's okay. I'm like, God, So then they rushed her into neonatal intensive care, and then of course, that was a 30-day process, and back and forth for the first couple of years, through 3 years from the hospital. And
Mhm.
she is paralyzed. She has, now we found about 10 years ago a brainstem tumor, and just she has basically her diagnosis is cerebral palsy, but there's all kinds of crazy things that have happened since. All that to say, Boo Boo is we call Boo Boo the atomic glue of our marriage, because I'm so humbled that the Lord was so good that he would serve up a Boo Boo to us that we couldn't run from, and that would be the very catalyst for growth all the way through our life. I mean, she's a crowbar. You can't, if you have a problem with serving, you're going to be exposed pretty quick, because you got a bumpkin that if you left her for 3 or 4 days, she'd be dead. I mean, this is heavy duty care, right? So it just really was the winnowing area. It was really kind of the threshing floor for us and Carolyn and I to, it's interesting. You come to the Lord, and you're like hunky dory. Everybody should be saying. Next thing you know, he starts unpacking your luggage. You're like, maybe not everybody. You're like, oh, geez, this is not easy. But bottom line is, this is what the exponential opportunity for God to really work in us, to lay things down and really grow through it. So all that to say is, here we are with 4 kids, and Boo Boo being the catalyst, the atomic glue, and then we go along, and I did a few things and some success here and there, and then all of a sudden this idea comes. And it was 2010, and we just kind of got through 07, 8, 9, and everybody kind of squeaked through there. And then I come, this crazy guy coming talking to his wife about this phenomenal idea, and she's all excited about it. And then I meet it just literally just within maybe the first minute of me telling her the idea, she stopped me and she said, "Oh, honey," she goes, I have a check in my heart about this." I'm like, "Check in your heart about what? This is just such a no-brainer." She goes, "I don't know. I just feel like it's not the right timing." I'm like, "Oh, are you serious?"
You're missing it, honey.
Oh, again, right? I'm trying to sell her into the deal. She goes, "No, baby, I just don't have a good." I'm like, "Dang it." I lived with her not having a good sense about that for 3.5 years.
Wow.
And I'd get together with buds or hang out or whatever, and we'd have a good time. I'd bring it up like a masochist. Why am I bringing it up? Well, I'm excited about it, but I can't do it. Carolyn's not up. She's not into it.
Yeah.
So, this went on for 3.5 years until March of 2014. Now, remember, it was at the end-ish of 2010. So here we are, almost 3.5 years later, right at that time. And so we're living in Nashville at the time. We're in our living room. We're having some coffee in the morning. And I'm kind of thinking, guys can relate to this. They're trying to figure out, how do I ask this question? My wife, okay, yeah, kind of like, geez. I said, okay, I said, babe, I know you haven't had a good sense about this. And if you don't, then I'll lay it down again. But I just got to tell you that this idea is eating me alive. I said, I can't shake it. I mean, I'd get online and go, it's not there yet. Nobody has it. And I'm thinking, I can't do it. Like, where's the nearest, I'm like, oh, Jesus, Lord, help. So she literally in the middle of a sip, she kind of sipped it. And she goes, oh, honey, I have a good sense about that. Let's do that. I'm like, what? The angels sang, it was just, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
So immediately I call my good buddy who is in manufacturing, and I sat down with him a couple of days later, and it was great. We hadn't seen each other for a while, so we just had about an hour and a half of just fellowship, catching up, having a good time. And I thought, oh man, should I even bring this up? So I go, okay, bro, thanks a lot. He goes, hey, so what about that business idea you told me about? I said, I don't want to ruin our time, man. I mean, we had such a good time hanging out. He goes, no, man, what is it? I said, well, it's a battery-powered heating blanket. And first thing he says was, everybody says this, that's not out there yet? I'm like, It could be in somebody's pipeline. It could be, I don't know. I mean, you would think it would be, because he says, hang on a second. And he gets up off the couch. He goes into his office and he comes back and puts what looks like maybe two iPhone 5s tapped on, put on top of each other. And he goes, here, man. And he kind of slides it over to me. He goes, here's your battery. I'm going, what? He says, Paul, I've been working on this thing for 3.5 years. I'm like, and that's what I'm like, mama. I mean, I'm like, what? That's exactly what I had the idea. He goes, well, I'm doing it for a different application in music. I needed a rechargeable battery at this level. It's for what I'm doing in some other things. And he said, but he said, here, take the technology, take my engineers, use them. You can make the same deal with them as I made them. This is your $1 billion idea. Have a nice day. God bless you. I'm like, I mean, I literally was sobbing like a baby.
Yeah.
And I'm like, Lord God, 3.5 years. Are you kidding? And of course, GPS. Bark, bark. Here's Carolyn. My back of my mind. I'm like, wow.
Because I would imagine with a battery powered heating blanket, that the hardest part to create would be the battery. I mean, there's blankets everywhere, but the battery part's the most sophisticated.
And, well, here's the thing. He didn't even know about that side. He just was doing it for another application. So he couldn't answer my question, which was deep in my heart going, will this thing power a blanket? So here's what happened. It took a month before I was actually able to schedule time to sit down with his engineers. And I was just biting my nails because when I first sat down with him, I thought, I wonder if this egghead brainiac guy is going to look up at me after he's doodling on his yellow pad and go, oh yeah, well, the reason why Sunbeam and Biddeford and all these, the reason why it doesn't work is because the blanket will only get warm for 5 minutes. And I'd look at it and go, oh, okay, good idea, but I'm an idiot. I'm just like, bye, have a nice day. So he's jotting it down. He looks up at me and goes, oh yeah, we can get well over 2 hours on high heat. I'm like,
wow.
I'm like,
wow.
What? He goes, oh, no problem. I'm like, yeah. So after that meeting, I'm jamming down. We were in Nashville. So he lived in Hermitage. I'm going 40 west back to Brentwood area, just south of Nashville. And I'm just rejoicing, praising God. And then all of a sudden, now some of the people that think I'm a freak already will really think I'm a freak after this. Because I felt like the Lord whispered to my heart something so significant. I felt like he said, Paul, I want you to do this one differently. And here's what he meant. I guarantee it. I had Just Me Music, the personalized CD. We personalized the Disney princesses. We personalized Mickey, Minnie, and Goofy. We personalized Elmo, VeggieTales, Wiggles, Barney. Had that company for 12 years.
And that's the music where, like, I could play it for Callan. It would be Mickey Mouse saying his name or something.
Well, the thing is, what's cool about it is that there's a story and then a song, a story and a song, and the special guest is the child throughout all the dialogue in the song, and the name is in there 60 or 70 times in 30 minutes. So this kid, everybody's just flipping out. You can imagine. So, but here's what I did. That was kind of off the wall on that is I always worried for that 12 years about somebody else actually personalizing a brand as a competitor. There was some generic companies out there, just Tom, Dick, and Harry singing to kids, but we owned the market. But guess what? I worried about that through the entire 12 years. I worried. And I even had a deal with Nickelodeon where I had studio time set up with Dora and Diego, and I was ready to go. And then Viacom came in and bought it, and it stopped. So I'm like, oh, but it was worry.
Yeah.
That's what he was talking about. What he was talking about. He said, Paul, this is my idea. Trust me. So I want you to pause there for a minute. I'm really going to blow your mind on this one here. You might have heard this before, but pause right there and then fast forward until October of 2015. Thankfully, that's about 1.5 years later, right? So my wife thankfully said, honey, I think we really should file a patent. I'm like, well, a patent, I'm like, okay. So we did in June of 2015, but it's a provisional. So it kind of just keeps your place there. You have a time slot. Then you have 1 year to turn it into a utility patent, which is drawings and big time, right?
Yeah.
So here we are, we did that. And then October of 15, 2 or 3 months after we did that, here, October of 15, my mother-in-law, who's dealing with some memory loss then, and she's worse now, hardcore, but then she was just starting. And so we were leaving a Costco, And she was at a Costco about 30 minutes away. She calls us, and Carolyn puts her on speakerphone and says, I think I see Paul's blanket over here at Costco. And I'm like, my heart just like goes to my toes. I'm like, so we race over there. She's not there when we get there, but she kind of told us where it was. And we went up there, and I was like, what is this? And I looked, and it was just an outdoor blanket. No battery power, no nothing. And so I felt relieved, but I didn't feel relieved. I said, Lord, I don't want to be a weirdo about this. I'm not the king of the universe for blankets. You're God. I'm not. Change my heart. I don't want to be, that was what he was saying, right? When I left the engineers, like, I want you to do this differently. So he gave an opportunity. So here we are driving back to our house from that Costco, relieved, but not relieved, because I don't want to be that way. And here's where it gets real funky here, real funky. I'm driving along just saying, Lord, I don't want this. I don't want to worry. It's, if this is your idea, I want to commit it to you. And then all of a sudden I felt the Lord whisper to my heart. And he said, Paul, I have reserved this opportunity for you and Carolyn. And bro, whether you believe I'm a freak or not, I tell you, it was so, I started weeping. I looked over at Carolyn and said, sweetheart, I felt like the Lord just whispered something to my heart. I told her, we're both crying. And so I'm like, I thought, what kind of a God do we serve here? We were people in the music business. I still have to ask my engineer how electricity works. Give me a break. I mean, who are we? He would reserve it. I thought, what kind of a dad do we serve? What kind of a father do we serve? That he would actually reserve an opportunity at this level? I mean, give me a break. This is just so much grace. It's not even funny. Very, very humbling, extremely humbling. Well, lo and behold, within about 3 or 4 months after that, one of the largest heating blanket companies in the world approached us and said, we would like to fly out and license your technology. Well, that was, I'm like, what? I'm like, oh my gosh, maybe this could be just a passive 20-year thing of revenue for us. So they flew out 3 times. We negotiated. 2016 took us about 9 months to get to the deal, sign the deal, and then one of the key players got sick. And to a point where he was sick for months, to a point where the possibility of dying. So here's Carolyn and I, we've signed the deal, and it was a letter of intent. We're in the deal. And then now, oh my gosh, because we'd prayed for him, and we'd shared that we were praying for him and so on. But at the end of the day, we didn't have a peace about pulling away, and I couldn't pitch it to anybody else because we were locked in legally. So we sat for 1.5 years, just dormant. And until the very end of that 1.5 years, it was in December of 2017. And was it 2018? No, 2017. Yeah. And so we just got the gumption and had the conviction to actually email him and say, look, we because he was getting better. He was getting a little bit better. And so basically he said, Paul, he said, I'm getting better. That's great. I'm so grateful. He said, but the bottom line is I have so much now that I have to catch up on. I'll go ahead and release you from that. I want to do it in the future, but so he released us from the deal. Well, what's interesting, within 1 year is when we got the patent. And this is the miracle about getting a patent. We're the only ones that are authorized by the US government to actually manufacture, distribute, sell a blanket powered by a battery, which is unbelievable. And here's what happened. When I got the email from my patent attorney of September 6th, 2018, it took me 4 hours to get him on the phone. And finally I got him on the phone. I said, what happened, Chuck? What took place? He goes, Paul, you're not going to believe this. He said, July 10th, I had one conversation with the USPTO examiner, which is their attorneys that work there. And he said he couldn't find any prior art for this invention in the country, in the US, and he couldn't find anything in the world. So he granted our patent as written, didn't change one word. Now, for those that are listening or watching this that have tried to get a patent, it's unbelievable. Usually you have to fight for it. And I tried 15 years prior to get a patent. It took me a bunch of cash and I never got it. It kept on getting rejected. So I knew God was like, of course, at that point, you're like, okay, Lord, okay. All right, give me wisdom here. Because now, you obviously your grace is all over this. And all that to say is the fast forward is it's been significant, and the Legends group, your group, Ryan,
Mhm.
has been so significant in this, how
Mm.
God kind of tied us together. And
Yeah.
really, it's been such a catalyst for us to get to that. I don't think we'd ever get anywhere near where we are now without
Mm.
the Legends group. And I'm so very humbled by that.
Mm.
So now, I mean, if I go through the story and bring us to now, we are now kind of, in my estimation, kind of blown up a little bit on
Mhm.
Amazon,
Yeah.
and going from where we were kind of invisible now to being visible, and then all the applications.
Mhm.
I know we're leaving out a lot in this story, but at the end of the day, it's like, you got to be kidding me. Now we have people on dialysis
Mhm.
that literally are freaking out about our blanket, because it's they won't let anybody plug anything in there when you have that dialysis. So ours, you don't have to plug it in, right? You bring
Yeah.
it in, it's portable, it's in the pocket.
Right.
People are actually being warmed up during that dialysis treatment.
Mhm.
I mean, there's numerous things, let alone, just a soccer mom who wants to be warm at 6:30 in the morning while watching the little 4 or 5 year old run around the field, to all the way to us meeting with the military 3 times. And
Yeah.
and listen to this. This is what got me. The first meeting, I think he was a colonel or something. He looked up at me and he said, "Paul, I want you to know that more soldiers die from hypothermia than they do blood loss." And I
Wow.
thought, what? I mean,
Mhm.
because when the body temperature hits 95, it starts getting septic, and at 92, it doesn't clot anymore. So no matter what you do, without the body warmth,
Mm.
you know, it's that deadly triad. The people that are in EMS know that, and
Mhm. Mhm.
so the bottom line is, all of a sudden these things start popping up. Then EMS, the first responders, started coming at us. So we've had some EMS distribution companies and just EMS world in general. So we did the EMS World Convention a year ago and had everybody and their brother come out of the woodwork, because they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is what's been missing here. A
Wow.
reusable battery pack that will actually power a blanket to keep somebody alive until we get him correct treatment." So, in our mind's eye for a long time, it was all the wants. I want to be warm. It'd be great if I was warm at the football game. I'd like to. But what about the need category, which
Yeah.
now has really gripped my heart? Because, if you have somebody that gets in a car accident in Minnesota in December,
Oh my
I'll
gosh.
guarantee you there's going to be hypothermia set in. So here we have a blanket that can crank and get, to 109 degrees, wrap that up, tuck them in there, and all of a sudden we're saving lives. This
Yeah.
becomes on
Mm.
such a different level, Ryan. And it's not like, oh gosh, look, this is all God's idea. This
Yep.
this is all us stumbling into a blessing and agreeing with God along the way. And I'll tell you, the entrepreneurs out there understand what I'm going to say here. It ain't easy.
No.
It's not easy to just stay in touch and just keep your heart right and commit things, because you want to do this, you want to do that, and I do this and do that. It's stupid. But listening to the Lord
Yeah.
and having him, keep, bring strategic people around us that have the same heart, that
Yep.
understand this is a way bigger purpose
Mm.
than just a little fun little deal. This is becoming something that is a need in so many realms.
Wow.
Unbelievable.
Gosh. I
I
love
tried
it.
to tuck all that into it just a little time, but I'm all over the place. But my
Yeah.
heart is so on fire for this,
Mhm.
and I frankly didn't know if I had enough vim and vigor at 63 to be able to start at 57. And I'm like, do I have enough gas in the tank? I'm like, bleh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, this is a God idea. So I'm like, okay, Lord, I'm going to follow you as opposed to trying to drag you along with me. I'm going to follow you.
Mhm.
And it's been amazing. And
Mm.
by the way,
Mm.
here's one of the big time key things. Remember, I told you initially the revealer of the enemy, right?
Mhm.
Carolyn has been spot on. And
Yeah.
I'm telling you, for guys, this is a tough one. This is a tough one, because you got, Melaine or whatever. She'd be like, I don't know, Ryan. And you're like, or Carolyn's like, I don't. I'm like, I'm like, Lord, teach me the blessing of my wife's voice. She doesn't need to know how to read this or that or text, or she can do all the kind. She's smarter than me anyway. But the bottom line is, when it comes to all the minutia, she says one thing and it's cutting right through the minutia. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh Lord God, what a beautiful,
Yeah.
amazing creature that you've made here, that we can come together in unity, and I can lay down my preconceived ideas. I can lay down my little agenda, and say, honey, what is your heart saying? What is it that the Lord is telling you?
Yeah.
How are you feeling? What do you discern here? Give me your heart. And dude, I'm telling you, listen, here's something I'm going to tell all the guys out there. I don't give a dang if you agree with me or not. This is straight up in your grill. Here's what I ask a bunch of guys. I have a men's group and a bunch of guys I hang with. I say, how many times, I'm looking right in the camera now. Look at this. How many times has your wife been wrong as it relates to matters of the heart? If you're not a liar, like I try to be once in a while, trying to squirm out of this truth, you'll probably say 0.
Yeah.
Then here's the question. How many times am I wrong as it relates to matters of the heart? Most all the time. I mean, maybe I'm right here and there. But here's what the beauty of this thing is so much bigger, because when we go out to trade shows and we go minister, we sit with some gatekeepers and some significant people that really want this blanket. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about this is the Lord's idea. I'm not trying to be like, we're Jesus people and you need to get saved. I'm just telling the truth. Hey, whatever the Lord does, and we're planting seeds or whatever, let the Holy Spirit water it. But the point is this. They got a guy that loves God, and that product is cool. But at the end of the day, it's like, hey, man, how's your life?
Right.
I mean, are you wrapped up into knots, or you want to trust the Lord? You know, guys that are running huge companies are just, I mean, they're in a fetal position in the corner thinking, how am I going to keep this together? Well,
Right.
God knows how to keep it together. So it gives us opportunity to minister in most kind of a covert operation way, you know?
Yeah.
But this has been a fascinating ride, and I'm just so fired up about so much that's happening and so many doors that are opening. And, you know, because people are, you and I were talking before we started, you know, about licensing, you know, NFL, Major League Baseball. You got people in the National Hockey League, people are sitting around ice and they're covered with clothes and they're mostly cold, especially the moms and daughters. They're like, you know, so let alone, you know, the baby boomers, they're freezing, but they're trying to smile with icicles coming off their, you know, so there's so many things that God can open up here, and I'm so humbled by this, that he's a big God, and he's done this. He's done this.
Oh my gosh. There's so many different ways we could go deeper into all this stuff. We could have several more podcast episodes. Some of the things I just want to piggyback on. You've had tremendous favor, tremendous grace. And I'm not shy about saying that to my audience, that I would not be here if it weren't for the Lord. He's given me so many ideas. I mean, honestly, Paul, the idea for Legends was a God idea.
There you go.
I no doubt it was. And and it's not about me. It wasn't about Danny when we got it started. It was about those people that the Lord wanted us to reach. And I'm addicted to success stories. And I know that he is using me to help bring dads home, help people that want to have extra income. There's so many people out there that there's other blankets out there, but there's none like yours. There's other Amazon courses and trainings and communities, and I believe there's none like the Legends group. I truly care about people, and I want to see them be able to create a stream of income from selling physical products online, and Amazon's an easy way to do it. So, but it was a God idea, coming back to what you were talking about. And he's given me so much grace and favor, put strategic people across my path. And so I can't take credit for any of it. And Cozy's story kind of parallels my story there.
It's unbelievable. Favor.
Yeah, so it's true. It is all the favor of God. And I would say, if somebody had to ask me, Ryan, what is your secret to success? It's the favor of God. And I've hear people say, ministers say, the favor of one day of favor is worth 1,000 days of labor. And the Lord can do so many more things in an instant. He can open up a door in an instant that would take me a lifetime to try to open up. And so I just go through the day, Lord, you lead me, guide me, you put me across the path, the people I need to be across from, and this is your business, and help me to reach people. So I love your story.
I had a thought. It's interesting. The other day we were hanging out, and we were having a good fellowship, and you know, this is people that hang out, and you know, we're trying to be super careful with COVID, and you know, and I just had this thought. I said, here we are, just enjoying each other's fellowship. And the richness of just sharing hearts and realizing, man, we're built for this. We're built for fellowship. We're built to interact. We're built to kind of, iron sharpens iron, and we're just built that way. And I just had this thing that hit me. I thought, there's probably somebody sitting right now on a yacht in the Mediterranean that's miserable. that has unlimited revenue in the bank, and he's thinking, I wish I had a friend. And I'm thinking, here's our life. We're rich in fellowship. We're rich with people that really love each other. This Legends group always freaks me out when I get together with you guys. I'm like, what is this? This is so a picture of Jesus's heart. Just people trying to help people. And at first I'm like, okay, what's the catch? What's the catch here? Wait a minute, but I'm like, there's no catch. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
People actually wanting to help people.
Yeah.
Like, wow, what an amazing concept.
Right. Oh,
anyway,
for the people who want to get a cozy, what's the best way to actually go grab one?
Well, I mean, I think they'd be great if, and even those at the bottom, I know that those certified buyers that already have one, it'd be great if we can throw in, another review.
The one, so if you're on Amazon, if you bought it already on Amazon, go and leave a review.
That'd be so cool. And then, I mean, obviously we make a little more dough personally on our website, but I'd rather them buy it on Amazon and have the people that have come in on the investment side to just get benefited. So Amazon's the key. I mean, it really is. You can't really beat that.
And guys, it's Cozy, COZEE. If you type in Cozy, you'll probably come up. Worst case scenario, type
what's
in
better
Cozy.
Is the space Cozy.
There you go.
COZ. Then it goes.
Actually, what'll probably help you out more, Paul, is if people type in battery powered heating blanket and then search for it. So those of you that sell on Amazon, you know what I'm talking about. Obviously I want to help his business. And so you can go right to it and just buy it. But if you want to search, like, use some keywords that you might look up for a battery powered heating blanket. Heating blanket, battery powered, something like that, and then search through and find it and then buy it. That'll help them even more.
It'll probably pop up on the top now because we're blowing up right now on Amazon, which is so cool. Anyway,
tell us. So real quick, one quick question I'm thinking about. So I love hearing the heart stuff. That gets me every time, and that's really, I love talking about that more than anything. But as far as somebody who has a private label product brand of their own, and they want to kind of learn from what you've accomplished. Talk about licensing for a second. If I have a mug or something that I've created or something special or whatever, a cell phone case, whatever it is, what's the process of actually looking for and going down the road of having, I want an NFL iPhone case. How does somebody even go about that?
The whole licensing world.
Yeah.
Okay. In that case, let's say you do have, what's the old adage? It's like find a need and fill it, right? Mm-hmm. And we just kind of stumbled into this, and wow, we didn't know there was a need, and obviously the Lord did. But my thing is, initially, if somebody wants to, if they have a proprietary product that's patentable, what I would do, and this is the cheapest way that I know to do it, is actually get on LegalZoom. There's a few other services there, but you can do a patent search. It's not very expensive from the patent standpoint. Now, what that does, that tells you if a patent has been issued or not. It doesn't tell you if somebody's in the pipeline with that. Okay. Because our pipeline, remember, it was June 1st. We didn't get the actual patent until September of 2018, June 1st, 15, right? So it was over 3 years. Wow. But here's what's ironic about that is when I checked on about 3 months prior, when I checked on the USPTO's website with my application number, you know how the government works, they're real efficient, right? They said that I wouldn't have a USPTO examiner assigned to me for another 18 months. So I thought, okay, I can still use patent pending and all that kind of stuff. Well, lo and behold, literally within 3 months, I got the patent. So, but in this case, patent searches are super important. And it's
so for example, let's go back to if I had an idea for a battery powered heating blanket and I was wanting to know what keywords would you literally type in battery powered heating blanket?
That's it.
Type in your keywords.
As specific as you can that demonstrates exactly what that product is and does. Okay. And then anything that has anything to do with it. But here's what's cool: you get on the USPTO.gov's website, and there's keyword searches. Yeah, you can actually put keyword searches in there for patents, for trademarks, and all those things, which is wonderful. So I kind of did that in the beginning, and nothing showed up. Okay. So I thought, okay, the way is clear initially, but again, who knows what's in the pipeline, so to speak.
Sure.
Yeah.
Somebody's already filed for it and they're just waiting and they're in the process.
We would never know that because that's secretive until it's actually issued.
So if I if you were back in the pending stage and I went and searched for a battery powered heating blanket, it wouldn't come up, but I would go through the process, hire an attorney, and then they would do their thing and then come back to me and say, oh, wait, there's somebody already in the pipeline that's farther ahead. You have to like,
they don't know either.
Design or something, or how
they don't know either unless it's been issued. They have unless they have some sort of a, under the table deal, which 99.9% do not, but they wouldn't know that. So they would gladly take your money.
Okay.
And they will go ahead down the road. And there's some people that like to take your money even after we've been rejected a few times from the examiner. But you got to be really savvy about that, because most honest patent attorneys recognize once you get a rejection, it has to be a significant shift, and it's tough to roll that rock uphill.
Okay.
So drafting all the claims and everything in the patent on the front side is so critical, because that assures you more success when the USPTO examiner looks at it and goes, okay, so they've covered the bases. But a patent attorney is important. I think it is important, but I did the provisional patent through LegalZoom.
Okay.
I'm not plugging LegalZoom, but I'm just saying I did it for $400 because I'm like, I didn't want to spend $2,500 for a patent attorney, and no put down any patent attorneys, because I might have missed something along the way. But when I did get to the utility within 12 months, I definitely hired a patent attorney and went so they could do the exhaustive application with all the claims.
If somebody is already ahead of me in the pipeline, do they get like first dibs on something, or can I like? Okay, is that how that? I didn't.
Well, this is why
how this works at all.
Well, I know it's really interesting, because when you file a provisional, which really is super easy to do, you actually get your time slot for that concept. So that's why it's so critical. And thank God Carolyn, said you need to do this. We did, and that so there could have been somebody June 2nd that did the provisional, and I'm one day ahead of them.
Wow.
So I get, I'm first dibs. That's if I turn it into a utility. Even if I turn it into utility, I get a year to do it. If they turn it into utility right after that, 2 days later, I still have dibs because of the timestamp.
Yeah.
Which is incredible when you think about it, because they could try to do the utility, which is extensive, 30 days later, but I still win if I do it within that 12-month period.
Okay, what do you need? Did you need to have the battery and a prototype when you did that provisional patent, or was it just a
concept
drawing, or what?
Concept.
Just
a little funky little drawing concept. When it turned into utility, we're having to be an extensive, all your claims, everything, and some real, specific drawings that were more detailed.
So if somebody has an idea, they think, man, for the last 5 years, I've had this idea for this type of product. I don't think it exists. And if they really feel, so they could that person could go onto LegalZoom, do a provisional patent for that concept.
Or maybe a patent search first, just in case. Because here's what my patent attorney told me. This will clarify. When we got the patent, he said, Paul, you're not going to believe this, but what I'm telling you is true. He said, 98% of people that get a patent do nothing with that product.
Wow.
That blew my mind. I'm like,
oh my gosh,
what it takes to get there. But here's what it is. So on my business card, I got a patent. It's like, who cares if you got a patent? I mean, for me, it's great. Good job, buddy. But there was no follow through. If it was that good to get a patent, then you should at least present it. But it's just interesting. They like it on their resume. And it kind of dawned on me that's why I have 12 patents. Really? How much have you made from them? I'm getting food stamps.
Is there a business opportunity to go look through patents and
big time,
and then contact them and say, hey, I have some money. I'd like to try out your idea.
I have a friend who got listen to this. I have a friend who got a patent for anything digitally transmitted over the internet in 1999.
Whoa.
He had a broad patent. And then all of a sudden, Apple and Comcast, everybody's violating his patent. So he's had people come at him. I don't know. I haven't talked to him in about 10 years, but he started having what these, how cyber squatters are, where they'll buy a domain name and just wait for Dolly Parton to realize that she needs their website. This is what these guys do. They look for patents that literally are being violated, and they try to go and buy that from that person that's not doing anything. Do you realize how many billions of dollars
Oh my gosh.
that were, I mean, literally, it was before the internet was big time. And this guy got anything digitally transmitted over the internet. That's his patent.
Gosh.
So I don't know what he did. I mean, he probably lives in some island somewhere now, but there's companies that look for guys like that and go, oh my gosh, we can capitalize on that.
Interesting. So for $400, I could do a provisional patent just for a concept that's been eaten away at me, like you said, the Cozy was. Interesting.
And then you got that 12-month period to be able to turn that into something. So that's when you go to work. Yeah. That's when you start going, let's get a prototype. Because what we did was we contacted China, and we got this funky little blanket with this little dinky winky battery at first. I'm like, well, it's kind of warm for like 2 minutes. But the point is that I'm like, wait a minute, if that's warm for 2 minutes and it's like this.
Yeah.
So that's kind of starting it out.
Wow, anyway. Man, been quite the process for you, but you're starting to see a bunch of sales come through. I've been watching everything you've been doing, and I'm proud to be a part of this and excited for the future with you. So
grateful, grateful, Ryan. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. You dropped a lot of wisdom and a lot of knowledge, and I agree with all of it. And I hear you. It wouldn't be without the Lord, and of course my wife too. And she's
wow.
We could do a whole episode just on that by listening.
Well, here's a little phrase you'd love. So my buddy told me one time, isn't it strange how God's voice sounds strangely like your wife's voice? Like, dang it. GPS, your voice, anyway.
That's right. So good. Well, thank you, sir. Appreciate you being on with me, and have you on again.
All right, man. Thanks so much, brother.
You've been listening to Streams of Income with self-help author Ryan Rieger. From right here in the Dallas Metroplex, Ryan teaches several entrepreneurial courses and group coaching programs to students all over the world. Be sure to listen next week at the same time for Streams of Income with Ryan Rieger.